Mornings from 6 with Good Morning Scotland.
It's quick, it's fast, when something breaks, you can have the story on air really quickly. You can be the first with the broadcast news. We don't just have the big political interviews or the big foreign stories. We have ordinary people as well that I think sometimes they're the ones that just make you stop when you're having breakfast and listen. Oh, what gets me out of bed? I think it's probably the fear that if I hit the snooze button, I might never wake up, frankly. It is hard some mornings, but it's just that, it's your job to get up, get going, and get across whatever's happened overnight.
Hayley Miller, part of the team that brings you Good Morning Scotland. Mornings from 6 on BBC Radio Scotland.
Coming up to 9 minutes to 11 on BBC Radio Scotland. Rob McLean here. Tom Feeney began a crowdfunding page yesterday to encourage all EU citizens to donate the price of a feta and olive salad to help raise the 1.6 billion euros of Greek debt. As of today, the page had raised 500,000 euros, so a little bit to go, which means, there is still a fair old differential to be made up there. To find out what crowdfunding actually is, you've got a double dose of internet expert Colin Kelly this morning. I hear no voices of complaint at the moment. Good morning, Colin.
Yeah, morning.
Plus Stuart Bannerman, who's 16 days into his first crowdfunding page for his business Startup Idea. Morning, Stuart.
Hi, and good morning, Rob. Thank you.
What is crowdfunding for those of us uninitiated?
Crowdfunding is one of the most nerve-wracking things I've ever done in my entire life, I've got to say.
Right.
Some people think if you set a page up and you crowdfund, you just set the page up and you go, yay, I'm crowdfunded, throw your money in that direction. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of maintenance. It's a lot of keeping everybody updated on the progress of it. And it's a lot of hours. It's a lot of retweets. And every time your little phone beeps and there's an email, you think, is that another donation? And then your heart sinks a little bit when it's not.
Yeah.
However, it's very, very rewarding. I've got 17 days left in my campaign. It's been running for about 43 days now. So
what's your business?
My business is actually supporting indie filmmakers. So I run a website from pagetoscreen.com. I also run 3 separate audio podcasts which focus on films, British films, horror films, etc. And it's a lot of social media. So I spend my days, nights, weekends, Christmas days, etc. helping indie filmmakers publicise not just themselves but also the films and stuff that they're doing.
And how do you persuade people that this is worth coughing up for?
The main key that I discovered, and a lot of this crowdfunding thing isn't a case of I know what I'm doing, I'm just going to do it. It's learning along the way. I discovered that update videos were such an amazing key to do it, and I've tried to do one of these every day but I've kind of failed. So I'm doing one every couple of days, just talking to the camera, because it's very, very easy to just put a link out there and put a name out there, for example, from Page to Screen or Cups and Monsters or whatever, but people have got to see you. They've got to see that you're passionate about what you're doing. They've got to see how much you really, really want to hit target. And I've had a few people who have donated that I don't know, but they have said, I saw your latest update video and here's £10, £15, £20, because I can see that you really, really want to do it.
I'm pretty passionate about a holiday in the Seychelles. Colin, would you contribute?
I'm afraid not, Rob, no.
Okay.
I think the crowdfunding campaigns that seem to work the best are ones where there is an element of innovation around it, or where it's something fairly unique. And I think Stuart, he mentioned the word passion. I think that's really important. The other thing you need already is a community. You need people who are already interested in what you're doing. Stuart obviously has that with his websites and his podcasts. There's people there who would champion him. As for you going to the Seychelles, I'm afraid I think that's a tougher sell, Rob.
Stuart, I heard you laughing in the background. Was my approach wrong there? Can you give me some advice?
I think as long as there is something you need to do in the Seychelles, so for example, there's somebody there you really need to interview and they refuse to
Have you met my Auntie Dora?
No, but I would listen to an interview with Auntie Dora. So I think if you crowdfund it that way and try and get to the Seychelles to give a world exclusive interview with Auntie Dora, you could possibly do it. I don't think you'd raise the 1.6 billion that they're trying to do for Greece.
No.
But you might you know,
That
you
does,
might raise some money.
That does sound like a bit of a challenge, doesn't it? I mean, crowdfunding is a word which is trending at the moment, big time, isn't it?
Well, it is. It's interesting, and there have been projects just like Stuart's that have failed and gone nowhere, and others like him that have been very successful. So, you know, all joking aside, people don't really know what's going to take off. And this guy Tom Feeney with his campaign for Greece, I think he's tapped into something. People feel a bit disenchanted with politicians, and these crowdfunding platforms do give us a way where we can all come together and do a little bit. And I think it's already exceeded, you know, what, €500,000 is probably well more than he expected he was going to raise.
Yeah, if we all bought a Greek salad. I mean, is that so ambitious that 500 million people buy a Greek salad?
Well, the numbers, I've been looking at the numbers, and if it continues to raise 250,000, let's say £250,000 a day, it would still take 24 years of that to pay off the Greek debt.
Right.
So
is that too long?
I would never say never, but it isn't. This isn't going to happen. But it's still an incredible example of what can be achieved through a good bit of crowdfunding in a very short space of time.
Stuart, did you look at other methods of financing before you went for this one?
I didn't know. I mean, I was brought into the crowdfunding fold by a digital series called Cops and Monsters, and Fraser, the guy behind that, said, you know, would you like to give me a hand running my campaign? So from that I learned how it works, what doesn't, and then I did actually sit down and think, do I really want to crowdfund it, or do I just wait 9-10 months to try and save up the money to get the equipment that I need to do what I need to do next? And I ended up hovering over the launch button and I thought, got to do it. Because as Colin mentioned, I have like a back support. So there were people going, we love what you do, we love what you do. So I'm like, prove it. But what's nice is a lot of strangers who I've never had any contact with are helping me out. So they're awesome, as well as the ones who were championing me anyway. But it wasn't an easy decision to go crowdfunding, because some of it is a little bit saturated for certain projects. I think some people do think it's a bit too easy to crowdfund. But it's really not. But
I just see your face falling as the PPI text comes through, and you think it's a donation.
Yep.
How is this administratively? Can it be an administration nightmare to do something like this?
In the first early days, it can be, because as you say, your phone beeps, you're like, yay, it's another one, and no, it's not. And then sometimes you'll go, I think the longest I've gone is 7 days without a donation, because I got stuck on the £500 mark, and then people would look at it going, you've obviously hit your target, so I don't need to donate. I don't know, keep going, because I've got other equipment that I can do. But if you do a crowdfunding campaign, you see a dashboard behind, and it will show you who's looking from which country, how many donations are coming from which country, and that is so interesting to look at. From, you know, majority of my donations are coming from the UK. The majority of the people looking at my campaign are from the US. So it's a massive difference. So it is pretty interesting to look at.
Are there terms and conditions, Colin Kelly, that should be thought about here?
Yeah, depending on what platform you use. Some of them have a feature where if you don't, so you set your target, and if you don't hit the target, you don't get any of the money. It just gets returned to the backers. That's the problem Tom Feeney's facing with the Greek debt. If he doesn't solve it, then all this $500,000 that's been pledged already will just go back to the people who have pledged it. You also, when you set it up, you promise people on many of the platforms who give you money what reward they'll get in return. And that could be, you know, they maybe get credited if it's a film, and they maybe get some sort of free gift, or maybe a unique behind-the-scenes opportunity. And so again, if it takes off, you then have a commitment. You have to, one, deliver the product, and secondly, deliver the reward or the perk to everyone who supported you.
How do you give back, Stuart, to those who back you?
For me personally, because I do the internet radio shows, etc., I've offered things like advert perks. So if they've got a film or a book or whatever, they can have a little advert run at the beginning or the end of my show. I've offered them guest slots on an episode, so if they want to come on, that helps me out because it's one less guest I've got to find, but also gives them another platform to talk about whatever project they've got going. It is more difficult for me because I don't have credits that I can put people's names on, or signed scripts or anything that I can give out. But the Cops and Monsters people are giving away physical props, you know, things like that, so that was easy for them. But for me, it's tied in with the audio shows and the websites. There is a review and share perk, so if there's an independent filmmaker who's got a film out there, send it to me, put whatever donation, I don't care if it's £1 or £2 or whatever.
Okay.
Do it that way.
Great.
So
good luck.
That's how I'll be working it.
Good luck, Stuart.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. Thanks to Colin as well. We'll hear more from Colin after the news. In the next hour, we'll be finding out why those of us in rural or